So let's dive into Illustrator this week. So there's a couple of different ways that you can create a new document. You can go up to File, New. You can use one of the pre-made templates or presets right here, or you can just hit the Create New button. Now, you are probably like me, and your brain thinks in inches, not points. So make sure you change that drop down to inches. So you have it set up as 8.5 by 11 inches, not 8.5 by 11 pixels or 8.5 by 11 points. And we only need one artboard. So let's hit create. Now, you'll notice my setup, and I'm going to go back to reset my setup or my workspace. I like to work in Essentials Classic. So your screen, when you first open it up, may look like this with just this panel over here and this panel over here. If you go up to the top right to your drop down and go to Essentials Classic, then your screen should look like mine because I have it reset to the default of Essentials Classic. And the reason why I set up my screen this way is it just gives me more options right on the screen, so I don't have to go up to the window panel as often. Now, again, it's really user preference. I have just found that I like to work this way. So let's take a look at our toolbar first. So we have, and again, you can set up your toolbar how you would like it. There is an X to close it. Don't do that. But if you do, you can open it back up right from the window and the control panel, or actually the window and the toolbars advanced. But you can hit these two arrows right here and it'll put it into a 2-column setup. Again, personal preference, I like to work this way. So you have two different sets of arrows here. You have a black arrow, which is the selection tool, and a white arrow, which is the direct selection tool. And they both do different things. You also have a rectangle tool, but if you click and hold down, you can get to your other tools. There's a rounded rectangle tool, an ellipses tool, a polygon tool, a star tool, and a flare tool. And we're going to use a couple of these different tools this week. You also have a line segment tool, which does what it says. It draws a nice line for you. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go to the rectangle tool. And there's a couple of different ways that you can use the rectangle tool. You can click on the screen and drag and see you can manually make a rectangle any size you want. The other thing that you can do is just click on the screen and let go. And it'll open up this dialog box that lets you make a rectangle a certain size. So let's say I want a 2" by 2" rectangle, which is really a 2" by 2" square. I can put in the 2x2 and hit OK, and it'll make a 2" by 2" square for me. Now I'm going to go up to my selection tool, my black arrow, and what this allows me to do is to drag it around the screen. Now currently, my rectangle is filled with white with a black stroke or border around it. Because it has a fill color, I can click anywhere on the inside to drag it around. But, and this can be confusing for new users of Illustrator, if I change the fill to none, which I can do down here in the panel by clicking on the little white square with the red slash through it, I can do it up here on the color bar, or I can do it up here. Now when I click in here, there's no longer a fill color. See how I can click and drag this around? Because it looks at it as an object that is filled with something. When the object is not filled with anything, you can't select nothing. So you would need to click on the border, which is filled with the color, in order to drag it around. So just something to keep in mind this week. Now that's the black selection tool. The black selection tool will also let you resize the object by grabbing on one of these handles. If you hover at the corner and you get those two rounded arrows, you can begin to rotate your object. And again, scale it any size that you would want it while moving it around. Now, the white direct selection tool's a little bit different. Technically, if the object is filled, you can still grab it and move it. But what the true feature of the direct selection tool is it lets you manipulate the different points an object has. So if I click on one of these anchor points with the white direct selection tool, I can move that anchor point out and start to change the shape of my object. Pretty cool, huh? All right, so let's go down to that ellipses tool. Again, I'm going to click on the rectangle tool and hold down so it opens up the options. Then go down to the ellipses tool. And once again, I can click and drag on the screen to make an oval. If I hold down the shift key on my keyboard, oh, look, it becomes a proportional circle. Or I can just do exactly what I did with the rectangle tool. Just click and let go and say that I want to do a 2x2 or any size ellipses and hit OK. Now, another thing that you can do is use the Polygon Tool to make different shapes. So the Polygon Tool is what you would use to make shapes of different sizes. Now, for this tool, you're going to want to first just click and let go because you're not sure what the default is set at. So let's say I want to make a triangle. Well, that's a shape with 3 sides. So I'll just change it to 3 and hit OK. And I've got a nice triangle there. And again, with my black arrow tool, my selection tool, I can resize it. Make it wider, make it taller. With my direct selection tool, I can click on the points and start to really get in there and manipulate them. Now with my line segment tool, I can draw a nice straight line. Now the way to get a straight line, again, let's use that shift key on our keyboard and click and drag. And now you can see it's giving me a line that runs along the horizon, one that will run at 45 degrees, one that will run straight up or straight down. See? Try it yourself while holding down the shift key. Now, if I want to change the colors of my objects, that's where the Swatches panel is going to come up. So there's a couple of different ways that you can get to the Swatches panel. If you're in Essentials Classic like I am, it's this box right here. It's the third one down. That looks like a whole bunch of squares. And if you want, you can just kind of drag that palette out and open it up a little bit. Or you can go down to Window, Swatches, and select it that way. You can also open up different swatch libraries. So once you've opened it up, what you can do is you can click on, make sure you have Show All Swatches there, and then click up here at, we call it the hamburger because it's got 3 lines. Don't ask me why. I didn't come up with that name. And we can go to Open Swatch Library, and there's a whole bunch of different libraries that you can open. So there's art history ones, celebration, color books, color properties, default, earth tones, food. Let's go to food and beverages and see what there is. So lots of fun different swatches here. Kind of earthy tones, right? Now to color something, you need to select it first, each and every time. So we're going to go to our selection tool, our black arrow, and we're going to click right here on our circle. And I want the circle to be red, but I don't want it to have a border on it. So I'm going to pick one of my reds. I like this one. But to take the border off, again, I can do it down here in this panel. I can click on the stroke and set it to none. Or up here, I can click where the stroke is and set it to none. If you set it to white, it does technically still have a border. It's just a white border. So for my next object, I'm going to click again, select it, and maybe this time I want it to have an orange border and maybe a tan inside. Well, maybe I want to get kind of crazy with the border, right? So I can go up to the stroke panel and I can change the weight of the stroke. I can make it larger. Maybe I want it to have a different width profile. Maybe I want it to look like a charcoal filter. So again, try to have some fun with each of the different panels, each of the different color swatches. Get past just the default. Have fun this week and explore Illustrator. That is what this assignment is all about.